Welcome to this session of the Psychic and Intuitive Abilities Summit. I'm Joy Taylor, your co-host, and my guest for this session is Nicola Amadora. The topic is connecting to truth sense. Nicola Amadora blazes a trail of love with a refreshing, real, and embodied way of spirituality. For 3 decades, she has been guiding thousands of people worldwide as a spiritual teacher and mystic, psychologist, Hakomi therapist, and women's leader. Welcome, Nicola.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you here from Portugal, yes?
Yes, today from Portugal, and it's wonderful to be here and to be with you, Joy, and everyone who is tuning in.
So let's start with this concept of truth sense. I love that. What do you mean by truth sense?
Well, this word just formed itself in me. You know how you get sometimes words that just feel like, oh yeah, that hits the nail. And for me, it was like it combines also that the truth lives within us and in our bodies. It's a sense that we carry so deeply that everybody has. And I changed the word from goosebumps to truth bumps, because I'm sure most people have experienced the goosebumps coming up, not just when you hear ghost stories, but when you sense and hear truth, your hairs go up on the body. So it's a sense we have that's like a wiring that's so deep in every human being, and we just disconnect from it, and we need to find our way back to it and keep reconnecting. And I want to start with a story instead of getting too conceptual about it, because that truth sense saved my life. And it wasn't so long time ago, and I had been practicing already 40 years, and following my intuition. But this was the litmus test of, what do you do when everything is at stake and your life might be taken in a second, and not just your own life, but someone else's too. And I had only seconds. And this is where I want to tell the story about my wildfire ride. I was riding, it was at that time I was still living in California. And some of you who are tuning in from California know the extreme wildfires we had a couple of years ago. I was riding up the mountain, and it seemed like a wonderful day, beautiful, sunny in the summer. And I was riding on a white Arabian horse, Magic, his name. He was just beautiful. We rode up the mountain, and I smelled smoke in the air. And that's an alert, of course, for us Californians. But then I thought, well, there's a lot of campgrounds. It's just campfires. Because I looked, I just assumed wrong. I looked around and saw there was a wildfire coming up from behind. And these wildfires are big. That's not just like your normal little forest fire, they're huge. I figured I have a fast horse. So we just galloped up the mountain, and I thought, well, on the other side, we'll get down. I was so wrong. As I came to the top of the mountain, I looked around, and to my utter dismay and shock, we were encircled by wildfire from behind, in the front, from the sides. I was with my horse on top of the mountain, and a ring of fire surrounded us. and it looked like there's no way out. So you can imagine the shock that jolted through my body. And of course, the survival brain turned on like frantically, including in my horse, who was rearing up. Horses are terrified of fire. But I knew that if we would go with panic, that would be the end of us. And I couldn't calm myself down because it was like, it's like every fiber of my being was like, survive, survive. At the same time, I knew that if this panic keeps going, it would be over in minutes. And that moment, something called inside of me. And it was like, get grounded, get present. This is your way through. How do you get grounded and present and with the fear, driving the heartbeat up to max? My horse was shaking. I was sweating. And in that moment, I drove my whole energy, not go further up, but go down, like into the ground. I was rooting myself in the saddle and felt the gravity, connected to the gravity of the earth. I put my hand for a moment on my belly where the fear was pounding, just acknowledged the fear, didn't fight it, didn't try to make it go away because that never works. And felt myself like grounding down to earth. Earth was holding me. That's in that moment, something settled inside, and then my horse started calming down. And then I looked around and I looked to become present. Well, imagine this had to happen within seconds, really. And I just looked at the fire, I looked at the mountain, the sky, something bigger. And then I got present to, there is a knowing inside. And I called all the divine beings in, And at the same time, I could feel I had to tap into the love. Because without connecting to the love, it was still, I wasn't quite aligned yet with that truth sense. And how do you feel the love when you're in utter terror? I mean, and that moment I just called to my heart. It was like the sense, oh yeah, I'm a mother. I have a little girl. I want to be there for her. I love her. And I love my horse. And then I had to let my heart expand to love the mountain, the fire. And in that moment, when all came together, the presence, the groundedness, the love, I felt connected.
Right there, that's so profound. Presence, groundedness, and love.
Yeah.
I'm just taking note and hope others are too. Okay, Nicola, tell us more. What happens?
So in a moment, the fourth element came to life, and it was this intimate connectedness with all life that I felt. I suddenly felt the fire is not my enemy. The fire is part of me. That's easy to understand when you're in the conceptual realm, but I felt it with my whole being. So I wasn't running away anymore from the enemy called fire. And somehow it was like the sense of like emerging with the forest that was burning, with the horse, with the fire. And in that moment, when I was also completely connected with my horse, he solidly calmed down. He was just present, he was quiet, and he trusted me. And I was trusting a deeper felt sense, the true sense. I said, okay, now show me, guide me, thy way. And I had no idea what the outcome would be. I was betting everything on this. I had to wipe my mind clear of what I thought, how to walk down this mountain. It's like an insane thing to walk through it towards an enormous fire. I mean, you have to be crazy to do that. But in that moment, I just knew what to do. And it wasn't revealed like it's a big plan. It was just step by step. I had to be present, attuned all the time. And every step I took, suddenly there was the sense, that felt body sense and that heart sense. There was like, okay, now right. And then we went through a bend and suddenly there was no fire. And then it was to the left down the mountain. And there was like a little tunnel where there was no fire. And then it was like a sense, okay, go straight. And it was not just a voice, it was like a total felt sense in my whole being. Okay, now straight. And I had to trust, entirely have faith in this, because any moment the wrong turn would have burned us up alive. And I really didn't want to burn up. And I really didn't want my horse to be killed. So, and it was this, and we had to be swift. I couldn't afford to make one wrong step. And so there was this, it was amazing how suddenly there was over there an opening and I walked through there. And then suddenly there was over on the left side there, I came around the bend and there was an opening. So we wove our way through the roaring fire down the mountain. And it was an uncanny experience of being completely one with that true sense, with that magic. And in that moment, it was such an alignment that at some point I realized we're at the river. We really have come down, and I jumped together with my horse into the river. And that's where we took our celebration bath, because we were so hot and the flames had been flying all around, and we just dove into the river, and that's where we stood for half an hour. I was like completely soaked and cooling down before we went home. And that's what saved my life, and it saved his life. And that is what I actually, in short, that's what I do with people too. I mean, I don't do something to them, I guide them to, and I let myself be guided by that. And that's, for me, that was like really the ultimate test.
Yeah, it's heroic. It's like ninja felt sense, felt direct sense. You described it as well, that felt sense. And really, you have put years in before that time, getting in touch with how to ground, how to access love, how to feel connected to the cosmos, how to be in the moment, how to trust one step at a time.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit and talk about, how did you get over the years, the many years of your life as a psychologist and Hakomi practitioner, how did you gain this ability to be so connected to your body, to be able to, in that kind of a situation, find your way through?
That's a great question, because I felt like for me, it was both the spiritual practice that I have since 40 years, every morning, every evening, I meditate, I sit in stillness. And the other piece is I did a lot of therapy too, because I could feel that there was so much interference from my horrific conditioning, really, life experience. So it was like I had to do both. And I find that is also the most healthy way, because I found like I can hear the truth at some point, with a lot of, with spiritual practice, at some point you can you can hear the truth, if you become still enough. But there was this piece that was missing for me, and that was the embodiment. Yeah, so I didn't just need to sit with every decision to just tune in endlessly, but that I could actually live it in the moment in my body and access the truth. And that came through I did a lot of therapy. I mean, a lot of, and I became a doctor in psychology too, transpersonal psychology. And I did the whole 9 yards of trainings, because I felt like it needs both, if I want to guide people. But also for myself, it was an exploration where I realized the more I was doing, attending therapy, it was helping me, but what really helped me was the Hakomi therapy and the more body-centered way, where it was also to, be at home with the emotions that are natural for every human being, and be at home in my body, because part of me was in the spiritual field, disassociating. It's like bypassing. And I could feel that, because something wasn't lived and palpable. So both the spiritual practice and the deeper body-centered work really, really helped. And at some point, it all came together. I mean, I had profound mystical experiences. I was blessed by them. And more, I was able to embody it, live it, and it becomes much more normal now. It's much more normal. It's kind of like, if I'm not on, something feels completely off in my body. I can feel I get a headache, or I get cramped up, and I can sense, oh yeah, you're offline, you're off, out of sync. So my way is to bring myself back into sync. It's not that we never get disconnected. We will, because this world is really intense. It's really intense what happens for people, and even in your own life. It's not an easy, cheesy cakewalk. Sometimes people think, oh, if I just have intuition, then I can avoid those difficult situations that appear in every person's life. But that's may I say, it's rubbish. It's the intuition, or the true sense for me, is for guiding me through any situation that may occur. And it's guiding me how to guide others too.
I'd love to ask a little bit about that, how you guide others in body-based psychology. So for people who don't know really the difference between maybe traditional psychology and Hakomi or body-based therapies, can you describe how they vary? And then maybe talk a little bit about, how we can become more body-based in our own lives.
I would say, I would actually, with this question, I want to broaden it, because it's also embodied spirituality.
Great.
And embodied psychology. It's like, and it's not just the body, it includes also your emotional, your humanness, your whole humanness. And the traditional way, both in psychology and spirituality, has been, to a large extent, ignoring our human incarnation as the embodiment, from the spirituality. It sometimes goes very much into the transcendence. This is all a dream. And in the psychology, the traditional way, and I really don't want to put anything down, so I will be really brief on this. Traditionally, it's like, you talk about your issues, and you talk another round about your issues, and it's okay to get some understanding. But then you notice you keep circling, and even though you understand your patterns, nothing really changes. And I'm the person, I like to unite things. So psychology and spirituality belong together. And then when you include the embodiment, it becomes a whole. It's like being able then to embody the love or the truth with your wholeness, your humanity as well. And that for me is a far more connecting approach, a whole approach, rather than spiritually you go up and you disassociate, or with the old psychology, you muddle around in your patterns, and both together belong, in my view, belong together. It's just like presence and love. They belong together. They can't go without.
So let's maybe bring people into an experience. Can you guide us in some kind of a felt sense or truth sense experience?
Yeah, we do something really simple. And my suggestion is that we start with just some felt sense with your body without going into a long thing. I just invite everybody right now to notice something you feel you really like in your room where you're sitting. And also notice what it might be like to give your weight to the chair. Just give it over to the mother, give it over to the ground, to the earth. No, so often we hold ourselves up and tight. And that sense of something might feel safe in your room. And just softly place your eyes on that object. And notice what you feel in this moment as you grounding a little bit, as you feeling maybe a little bit more safe. And breathe into that belly and breathe out through the mouth. Just feel the rhythm. So there's nothing you need to do and to experience right now. Just allowing things to be and allowing yourself to be. And then, connect with your heart. So it doesn't have to be open, but maybe there's a place inside of you, in your heart, that can appreciate someone in your life right now. And again, you come back to, as you're thinking about this person, you come back to, and how does that feel in your heart right now? Maybe there's some warmth. Just to call in that person who was kind to you, or who is a friend. And just notice that little flicker of warmth in your heart. I said, for some it's big, for some it's very, very little, but I want you to pay attention to that one taste. So I don't need to try to make it more. And just linger there, savor that. And allow it to take a bit more room in your body. Like maybe it's a shining, maybe it's a warmth. And then you can drop in a question. Don't ask the most difficult question for your life, but maybe a simple question you have on you're walking around with, like you might ask, shall I be with this partner or that partner, or shall I go and do this workshop or not. Just ask a simple question. And then you float that question. Float it into the hands of the divine. Whatever form that it has for you. Can be a river. It can be the hands of the Great Mother. Or, God, something greater. Just drop the question there. And just simply open yourself to ask that very basic question. Show me, reveal unto me what is truly for the highest best. Reveal to me what I might need to know. What is true? And again, without expecting now immediately an answer, just know that prayer, that opening inside, has an effect and will always, always be answered by life. And in this moment, maybe you sense some stirring, maybe you get a word. And for this moment, I just invite you to feel into what's your next step that emerges from inside. Might be simple words. Take a nap. Can be call this person. Maybe it's totally unrelated to your question, but this is the next step. And then you give thanks and you take that step. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicola. I love that you ended with this next step concept, because when you were talking about your truth sense in the fire with the horse, what really stood out to me was that it was not the whole plan. It's not like some supernatural experience and you were hovering over the fire and you knew where to go all at once. It was each movement, you and the horse in connection with the fire, knowing the next move. And if we can live our lives like that, we don't need to know the future. And to me, that's like, to be at ease in the mystery, to be at peace in the unknown. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I've had the great pleasure of spending time with you and actually going on a pilgrimage, a spiritual pilgrimage with you. And you are a manifestation of the now, that present. So how can people be more comfortable getting the truth sense in the moment?
Yeah, I remember when you were on the pilgrimage and we were in Mary Magdalena land in France, and it was so beautiful to be with you and with all the other women. And again, that was a place that I was guided to. I did not know about this ancient cave, but I'm not going to go into that magical story. That's for another day. When you ask the question, how can people develop that more and cultivate that more? I would say there's two things that is about, as you pointed to be more at ease, to come into the now, and that is the breath right now. I know many people talk about that, but it's a practice. Yeah. What do I sense right now in my body is the question in order to get more connected to your body. And then the other question is, what do I feel? Like a feeling. And most of us run away from the feelings we don't want to feel. But the problem is when you keep doing that, that you closing the door to the truth sense. It's not going to come really fully through. It cannot, because you're locking up. Yeah. This feeling, I would just want to feel good. Yeah, who doesn't want to feel good, right? I only want to have joy, and there's pain in life. It's just a given. And so to become more at ease with all experiences is a practice and is a walk. But the moment, then there is a freedom. So it's not, the truth sets you free, right? That's the old sentence. Well, often people think the truth sets me free from all troubles. Wrong. That's the bad news. But the good news is the truth liberates you so you can walk through anything and be home and be at ease and at peace. It's the truth or that liberation, not from suffering, but in the midst of suffering, no matter what is going on. And I would say the practice of like grounding more in your body and being more at ease with your feelings. And then the third piece is also like you really, the devotion to the truth. I want the truth. I want your way, not my way. And so it seems like there's a separation. There's the divine and there's me, little me. But really what we're talking about is I want the truth here in my being. And then, calling in the divine help is absolutely essential to learn that, to be humble enough to get on your knees sometimes and say, I really don't know what to do. I had many situations like these in my life. And no practice, nothing helped. And it was this final call, I surrender, thy way be fulfilled as and through me. Not just thy will, but thy way is, it may be an old-fashioned way, but I learned that through the deeper feminine way, or Mary Magdalena. It was like thy way be fulfilled. And there includes the way, which means the steps you take on that way. So it's not just like, okay, here's the ultimate truth. It's the walking of it. That's what brings people into embodiment. We're here for that, to embody that living truth. We're not just here to realize some nice concepts or have a moment of peace. We're here to live that in the midst of all of it. And so this, for me, is probably, these practices and these ways that help your vessel to come more into alignment and into sync with the living truth that is here. And it's right encoded in every cell of ours. And the body doesn't lie. So the mind sometimes has a lot of stories, but when you just acknowledge the mind and not fight with it, there's no use to get the mind all still. But when you just say, okay, the river of thoughts are flowing through, let's not clutch onto any, but let's see what the river is really singing to me. Then there is an ability that the mind suddenly feels like, oh, I can trust that. The big boss has it in hand, or the big lady has it in hand. Yeah. So
there's so much you just shared that I love. And this devotion to truth, or this dedication to truth as a clarity in life, is a game changer because it's true. The truth will set us free. Sometimes the truth hurts or appears it does at first. Sometimes the truth asks us to do things that are outside of our normal realm. So I love that. I love you bringing that up and all of us having a moment of inquiry. How dedicated to truth am I really?
I love that question. Yes.
And then this way, you talked about the way and that thy way, and that came from more of a deep feminine approach. Could you take a moment and, because you do speak about deep feminine a lot in your life, in your work, in your workshops. So what do you mean when you say the deep feminine?
For me, it means more than bubble bath. It means more than taking good care of yourself. It means literally the embodiment of, if you're in a female body, there might be some listeners who are men, so I love all the men too. However, there is something about the feminine that we need to recapture, that we have lost in all the oppression and the witch burnings and everything. That is a sense in us that's so strong in the, what I would call is actually the feminine power that is within, that you can sense you are connected with all of life. It's in form. The sacred is in form. And in that moment, like when I went through the fire was not anything other. It was, as life is, completely connected. And for me, the deep feminine way is more than just, getting empowered, which absolutely is important for us these days, and to speak our voices, and much, much more. But it is that ability to connect to the life power, the original life power that I did on that intense ride. It's that life power that is especially strong in the feminine. And it's that life force that feeds all of life. And like you said, it also sometimes destroys the forests to make way for new growth. And so that truth, liberates. To follow that is a path that I would say is not necessarily for the faint-hearted, but it's a path for those of you who are real, who are into the real, who are into like, this life is for more than just my little truth or my little story. That life is dedicated towards that what has birthed us and is way beyond that. So that's the love there. And I could say so much more about this, but you can sense it right now in your body, right, Joy?
Oh, absolutely. Everything's getting warmer for me. My body's feeling warmer as we go deeper into this conversation. And when you said it's not for the faint-hearted, I kind of had this flash of you as a soul deciding to come to planet Earth this time. And, Nicola, your life hasn't been for the faint-hearted. And that's what I love about you. And maybe this kind of segues into talking a little bit about your book. Your upcoming book is a bit about your life story, correct?
Yeah, it's a mix. I'm really excited about it. It's called Love Unleashed and How to Rise in a World on the Edge, which we do need at this point, given the situation. It includes, every chapter includes real life stories. I'm a strong believer in real life stories, but it also includes really alive wisdom teachings and practice. It's called, the other part is called Love in Action part, where always there's some practices. And in that book is, there's one chapter, Follow the Red Thread. And this subtitle is like, listen to the voice of truth and cut through the BS. So, but it has that has a lot of love in it, and I'm really looking forward when it is finally on the tables and the kitchen tables from people and bedside tables, like a companion.
Yeah, well, just having read a little bit of the early readers edition, if you will, right? Boy, the upbringing you had and the ways that you have found truth in your life, you're such an example of strength for me. And I'm sure people listening can feel that in you too. Now, what are you excited about coming up in terms of what you're offering and how people can be in touch with you?
Well, there's so much that I'm offering that I'm wondering if I'm actually able to cook 10 dishes on one stove. But, I have a spiritual leader training for women. That's a wonderful program, the Mary Magdalena retreats, of course. And I also have a program where I train therapists in the Transforming Lives. And many more. You can look it up on my website. I'm really excited to meet any of you. It's under nicolamadora.com. And yeah, and I just love giving a nudge of inspiration to everyone here. And a little bit of the gold you can, or maybe some chocolate too, that you can take with you.
It has been very rich, that's for sure. Spending time with you is always so insightful and rich. And there is a felt sense, there is a direct feeling that is happening in my body right now. Like I said, I'm feeling really warm. I don't think there's any fires around. I sure hope not. Nicola, this has been fabulous. So let's roll it back around here. So we've been talking about this truth sense and it being our intuition. How would you like to close us out? What would be something you could offer to everyone listening to give us some encouragement or a next step so we establish more of our truth sense?
I would say one encouragement is I can assure you 100% that the truth guides you home, the truth sets you free, and that the truth is your shining companion when you feel lost, completely lost, or don't know where to go, what to do, or even when you're in pain. I would say it is the way that is the torch that leads you through the darkest night, for sure. I 100% put all my weight into that for you. And so I really hope it sparked something in you to go home or be at home and just put yourself on your knees for a moment and say, hey, thy way, let truth reveal to me what needs to be seen and heard and what I know deep down already.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Nicola.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us. And I hope you fully took in this beautiful, rich experience today. And thanks for being a part of the Psychic and Intuitive Abilities Summit.
Thank you so much, everyone.